Hi guys, it's your friendly neighborhood headbanger Terry here, and we are in black and white. And what does black and white mean, cats and kitties? It means probably that we are going to do a true crime video. And we are, and this time we are going to the land of the Delta Blues, the home of Elvis, the place of great barbecue. That's right. To quote Mark Cohen's song, we are going walking in Memphis, which by the way is a great song. And if you haven't ever listened to it, you need to YouTube it after you watch all of this video, correct? Correct. All right, guys. This one has there's not a lot of twists and turns, but there is a lot of detail. So I'm going to refer to my notes so I don't rabbit trail all over the place, which means you get to see me in my really smart looking glasses here. Don't I look smart? I do. Okay, so our tale today happened back in March, or in 2000 on March 8th. And this is, as I said, taking place in Memphis. And we are going to talk about a guy by the name of Frederick Williams. Frederick Williams. I'm going to be calling him Fred because I don't want to have to say Frederick every time. Fred was born in 1959. So at the time that this takes place, he is going to be 41 years old. And Fred was a firefighter. And he was married to Stacy Williams, who was 32 years old. And they had been married for about 2 weeks when this incident happened. Fred had been having some issues. Before March the 8th, he had been on an extended leave of absence. And everything that I found on this was for unspecified reasons. So I don't really know. Although I can kind of guess because apparently 4 months earlier, he had attempted to ingest rat poison during the Thanksgiving holidays. And I love what his friend said. This is like the best statement ever. I'm not laughing at the fact that he tried to take his life because that's not funny, but what his friend said was funny. And what his friend said was, you don't usually ingest rat poison unless you're intending to harm yourself. That's hard to argue. So there were some issues with Fred, and he clearly was having some mental issues. Also, police found out at the time of the incident, Fred was a defendant in a domestic abuse case. And if he had been found guilty in this domestic abuse case, and it did not say who this case was against, I would assume it was probably against his wife Stacy, but I don't have facts for sure on that. Anyway, if he had been found guilty in this domestic dispute issue, he would have had to have surrendered his guns, because there was a law that said that if you had been convicted of a domestic dispute issue, that you lost your freedom to own a gun. So it is possible that he feared losing ownership of his guns before the incident happened. Okay, on March the 8th, 2000, Fred, who lived on Germantown Road South, set his house on fire. Now, I realize the irony there that he is a firefighter, but he set his house on fire. And after he did so, there was a woman driving down his street. Her name was Deborah Gatewood. And Deborah noticed that there was smoke coming from a house. It looked like it was coming from behind the house initially. And she thought, well, maybe somebody's barbecuing. But then looking at it more closely, she realized they'd have to be barbecuing a dinosaur because there was just so much smoke. And then there started to be flames. And within 8 minutes of her seeing that the house was, seeing the smoke, the house was engulfed in flames. So probably there was an accelerant used of some type. And I'm sure Fred, being a firefighter, knew exactly how that worked. And she reported that she could see panes of glass in the window cracking and snapping and just crashing out due to the force of the heat inside. So she pretty well freaked out, and she saw another blue car coming down the street, and she ran up to the blue car. There was a couple in the blue car, and she asked the man in the blue car if he had a cell phone. And he said yes, he did, and he would call the fire department, which again is ironic because part of the fire department is already there. So within, that 8 minutes that she saw the flames go whoosh, she has by this time stopped a car, and they are going to call the fire department. And while they called the fire department, Deborah kind of stood in the street and sort of cautioned cars as they were coming. This is apparently a fairly busy street, because it talked about her, warning car after car, don't, be careful, because she was afraid that the house was literally going to explode. It was on such fire, the fire was rampaging at such a rate that she was afraid it was going to explode. She was trying to keep cars away. Then, all of a sudden, she heard people yelling. She heard men yelling, "He just wants to be left alone. Stay away. He just wants to be left alone." And she realized that there was a guy on the carport of the house that was burning. And about that time, a police car pulled up. Now, this police car was being driven by Officer Rupert Pete. And Officer Pete was on his way to a theft call nearby, and he decided to stop, obviously, to see what was going on. He was probably redirected. And he saw the fire, and Deborah told him about Fred being on the carport, because, as you've probably guessed, Fred is the man on the carport. And she told him to be careful, because Fred just wanted people to leave him alone and stay away. And right after Deborah said that, she crashed to the ground, and she saw Officer Pete get shot while trying to get out of his car. She realized that she had been shot in the jaw. She realized something was terribly wrong with her mouth, and that her jaw had been injured. And at that point, she and the couple from the car, the blue car where the man had the cell phone, they ran across the street and were trying to take cover in like a little enclosed doorway of the front door of a house. And they were also beating on the door of the house, and either no one was home or the people in the house were just too completely freaked out to move, but the door was never answered, so they just had to cower down at the house. Let's see. So, by this time, there were firefighters that were responding to the fire. It has not been known, or hasn't been said in any of the research I did, whether Fred actually knew these firefighters, whether he knew who showed up. But Fred did yell, stay away, get away, leave me alone." It was at that point that it was realized that Fred had a shotgun. That's what he was using to fire at people. Fred wound up shooting at the firefighters when they arrived, and wound up killing 2 of them. And let me get their names. Their names were Javier Lerma and William Blakemore. So far, he has killed 3 people. He's killed Officer Pete in the car when he first arrived there. He has killed Javier Lerma, I'm sorry, I probably butchered that, and William Blakemore. And he has shot and wounded Deborah Gatewood in the mouth. She would wind up taking several weeks to recover from that. She wound up having to have her jaw reconstructed and wired shut. So that was quite a long process for her. Finally, at this point, another police car comes up, and this cop car actually knows what's going on. They have been told, the entire thing, because once again, the man who had the cell phone was calling 911 when they were crouched down in the doorway to tell of, the events that were taking place. It's not just a fire anymore. It's gotten a little bit more intense than just that. So that police car rolls up, and Frank, good grief, where'd I get that from? Fred is taken down. Fred is shot by police and is laying on the ground, where he is immediately arrested. After Fred is arrested and removed from the property, it's found that Stacy is in the house. He had shot Stacy first. He had set the house on fire. Then from that point on, he positioned himself on the carport with his shotgun, basically telling people to stay away. And I don't know if he was just planning to let the fire burn and burn and burn, hoping it would destroy Stacy's body. I don't know where he thought he was going to go from there, because people aren't just going to let a house burn down. He himself would know that burning a house does not exactly get rid of forensic evidence of a murder. People are actually pretty hard to burn, actually. So it wasn't hard to figure out that it was Stacy who was in the house and who had been murdered. So that brings his total up to 4 within the space of, well, we're not entirely sure when Stacy was shot, but within the space of a few hours, at least 3 and probably 4. So Fred gets taken to the prison ward of the Regional Medical Center in Memphis. Now, if you doubt that Memphis is a violent city, their hospital has a prison ward. I live in a fairly small, it's not, I guess it's a medium-sized town. It has about 55,000 people in it. There are 2 hospitals. Neither one of them have a prison ward. If a person who's been arrested has to go to the hospital, they just send a cop with them and, keep watch over them and guard them, and I'm not sure they're handcuffed. But we do not have a prison ward. So that tells you a little bit of something about Memphis. Also, if you look up the most violent cities in America, you will find that Memphis appears repeatedly in the top 10. So Memphis does have an issue. So Fred is taken to the prison ward in Memphis to recuperate from his injuries, and he's there for quite a while because he got shot more than once. Then, after that, he is taken to a local mental facility because he has been examined by a psychologist, and he is diagnosed with depression, psychosis, and delusions. And a lot of people don't realize that there are some levels of depression that actually cause psychotic breaks, and they can cause hallucinations, they can cause delusions, they can cause paranoia, they can cause, some depression is extremely hardcore. And this is apparently what Fred was dealing with. Fred's friends had said that, years ago he was nothing like this, but that in the past few months he had started acting, not himself. So apparently something did happen. And then, of course, we go back to the suicide attempt at Thanksgiving with the rat poison. There was obviously something going on with Fred that people didn't catch, that people weren't realizing. And again, like I said, we don't know what the reason for the extended leave of absence was. That sounds like it could have been something emotional or something mental going on, but he was back. He was back to work by the time this happened. As a matter of fact, he had called in sick to work on March the 8th, the day that everything went down, and he had called in sick to work the day before. So it's entirely possible that he had killed Stacy the day before or the night before, and then everything else happened on the day of March the 8th. He went to trial in 2006, which I find amazing that this happened in 2000 and didn't go to trial until 2006. But I would think that probably the Memphis court system is fairly overloaded on a continual basis. But he had been in a mental hospital up until this time, and he goes on trial, and he is found amazingly, because this is a defense that doesn't work 98% of the time, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity. William Blakemore Jr., who was firefighter William Blakemore's son, was furious. Some of the other family members of people who had died were furious as well, and felt like, this was just a miscarriage of justice. But the judge had said that it had been told to him by Fred. Fred told the judge that he was the son of God. And there was a new world order that had implanted a chip in him so that they might spy on him. And this sort of tells you that this may not have been a wrong call, because he does nothing to run away from the scene. He does nothing to hide her body other than start the fire. And as a firefighter, he would have probably known that she would have not been completely incinerated. There would be bone, there would be forensic things left that they would be able to use to identify her. He tells them to keep away, stay away, but he still goes ahead and shoots them, but does nothing to evade the scene. Winds up getting shot. is truthful about everything that happened. It's not like he can't be truthful. It's not like he really could lie considering the number of witnesses there were. But he basically just, doesn't try to do a whole lot to say, oh no, I'm not guilty. I didn't mean to do this. I didn't, he doesn't make up stories about the people that showed up. It just is what it is. And so that led to the judge believing that there might have been obviously some mental illness, some mental defect, because he really did not try to put up any kind of defense other than the insanity defense. And he didn't try to get away, and he didn't try to hide anything. You could say that he was trying to hide Stacy's body. And there might be an argument for that. But again, he was a firefighter, and so he knew that she wasn't just going to turn into ash and not be there at all. So it's interesting. I wish I had a better idea of what his thought process was when he pled. And I wish I could have seen the psychiatric reports where he had been examined, but I was not able to find those. At any rate, I do know from my studies of counseling that definitely you can have this level of depression that causes a psychotic break, and that certainly sounds like what had happened. So he was placed back in a state mental hospital, not a state mental hospital for people that, just walk around freely. He was sent to a state mental hospital for the criminally insane. He is in a secure facility, and as far as I know, he is still in that secure facility. I tried to look and see if he was still in the mental hospital and what the name of the mental hospital was, but when I looked up his name, I just kept getting stories of all the things that I've told you, are stories of the trial and how he pled at the trial and that sort of thing. So I did not actually get a very good definition of what place he was at and if he was still there. I will tell you, though, that if Fred is still there, he's 62 years old, and I don't know about you, but I still think that is young enough to, if he were to be let out and were not treated and were not better, to cause quite a bit of mischief. It may be that he's happy there. Maybe he feels safe. Maybe he feels secure. I know that Ed Gein, who the Psycho movies are based on, was actually kind of happy when he was placed in a psychiatric ward, and was, the model inmate, so to speak, and died there. So it could be that he felt that it was a safe place. I do not know. But Fred, definitely something snapped, because 4 people lost their lives, and the fire department has had memorials on the anniversary of Javier and Williams' deaths, and as well as the police department for Officer Pete. It's one of the things about first responders, they don't know all the time what they're responding to. And this was just a little slice of hell. We got a civilian wounded. We got civilians shot at because he was still shooting at Deborah Gatewood and the couple in the blue car as they were, trying to hunker down in this doorway of this house they went to. Just a lot going on for these first responders that they probably, when they woke up that morning, had not thought was going to happen. They respond, they try to help people, and then you wind up with a person with a serious mental illness that's experiencing a psychotic break that you have to deal with, and it doesn't always turn out, it's not always a successful conclusion. I mean, I guess you could say it was to some point, because he was arrested and detained, but not before 4 people lost their lives. So that is the Memphis tale of Fred, and wow, that was a lot going on for a span of a few hours. And it just, if you see people around you who are people that you know and have known for a while, that their behavior has changed and they're acting strangely, just ask them how they're doing, if there's anything they can do for them, maybe suggest that they go see somebody, because I really don't think that people like Fred Williams are, like Rome. They aren't built in a day. I think things happen over time. Clearly, for the past 4 months, and probably before that, he had been dealing with some issues, and there had been signs like the incident at Thanksgiving, the leave of absence, the domestic dispute. Things had sort of been rearing their ugly head, you know, to let people know, hey, there is something really wrong here. So if you think that there's something wrong, if you feel that there's something going on, you know, try to talk to that person, and you may be able to convince them to go get help, or you may see that you need to be proactive and you need to go to someone and say, okay, I'm really concerned about what I'm seeing here. All right, guys, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you are safe. I hope you're taking care of yourself. You know, if you see a house that's really horrifically on fire, use your cell phone and report it. You know, the thing about this now in 2021 as opposed to 2000 is practically everyone has a cell phone. She wouldn't have had to try to hunt one down. Deborah would have had a cell phone, and she could have driven back the way she came and used the cell phone, and possibly not have put herself in the line of fire. So, yeah, things change in the amount of 20 years, you know, in the time of 20 years, which seems long in some cases and kind of short in others, a lot of things have changed. So, all right, guys, like I said, I hope you're safe. I hope you're well. I hope I always say, I hate to say I hope you enjoyed the story, but I hope that you found it interesting, and I'll be back with another true crime. I think it's time to leave Tennessee. We've been in Tennessee for a while. You know, my home state, I love it, but it's not the only state that has crime. So I think the next time we do a true crime, we will go somewhere, maybe out west somewhere, do that. I hope you guys are having a fantastic night, and that you take care. And if you like the content that you see on my channel, make sure you subscribe and you hit the like button and you hit the little bell button that'll tell you when I do a video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.